Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be going over a little bit of the evidence I have that proves that George Lucas robbed me and stole Jedi Knights and the Force from me in 1974. He made me a promise. He offered to make me rich and famous. I'm going to go over some of the evidence I do have here. The truth, I did not start to remember what happened to me in 1974 until 1999. I remembered a little of it in 1977 when my father took us to see Star Wars, and I said, hey, isn't that mine? When he was when he first talked to Luke Skywalker in the cave, and he said that his father was a Jedi like him, or however he worded that. That's the first time I'd heard it since 1974. I almost remember it, and I go, Dad, isn't that mine? And he goes, no. So that's the last time I remembered until 1999 when my mother started telling the story about me falling on a stick. It didn't happen. I didn't fall on a stick. I was almost killed by Jack Hembergers, which is George Lucas's cousin. I'm pretty sure that's his name, 99.9% sure. So I'll get on to the evidence. If you really pay attention, now you may view this as circumstantial evidence, but if you pay attention, in a way, it really will prove it to you. Okay, now, as I said, this is circumstantial, all of it, except for that piece of paper, which I don't have anymore because it vanished. I told you that I started trying to write him in 2001. This was after I'd already been told to stop writing him, I believe. Yes. Let me see, because I'm gonna get the exact date. Hold on. I'm trying to go in chronological order as much as I possibly can here. As I told you all, I started trying to write George Lucas 2001. Here's one letter, and I don't think this is the first one, but this just happens to be one I have right here. As you can see, 3:30. That was March of 2001. I wrote him a couple more letters. I started getting mad because I was getting no response out of him whatsoever. But I never ever threatened the man, and he tried to have me arrested eventually, but I will go into that here in a second. The next thing is, here, hold on a second, okay, now, that wasn't until October. Let's see. So, the next thing that happens is Bob Friedricks comes to my house, and here's the Bedford Police Report, and I'll show you Bob Friedricks' name. Now, when he first came to my house, he pretended to be looking for a lady who used to live there, and he knew her name. I knew her name because I used to get her mail, okay? And so he somehow had enough information that he was able to pull this lady's name. So I assumed he was really looking for the lady, never thought anything of it. He left, and I continued to write George Lucas, and he was just there to fill me out, okay? So that's the Bedford Police Report, and I'll tell you, they told me after that, and that wasn't until, this was in November of 2001, so that was actually later on. I just wanted to show you his name on there. So I wrote the letters, then he sent Bob Friedricks. I kept writing. Bob Friedricks comes back and tells me not to keep writing George, and I kept writing George. Then I get a letter from Lucasfilm. And as you can see, this is July of 01. Or June of 01, sorry. And they tell me to shut up, basically. And I said, no, I'm not going to shut up. So I started writing newspapers, as you can see, and everything. This is July of 01. I started writing newspapers and everything, okay? I didn't take to that threat, and I kept writing him too. And finally one day Bob Friedricks came back. I think that's when he told me he's an ex-FBI agent and he works for Lucasfilm, and I needed to stop writing, and I didn't take that either. I wrote him another letter after that. So you know, who is he? Ex-FBI agent. So that's when the police called me, and I got this, I actually sent off for this copy of the police report. And the police called me, and they said, well, they read my emails, and I didn't really threaten him, and that I should get a lawyer. And that's at the point where I started writing lawyers, trying to get a lawyer to sue him, and of course I kept getting these back. You know, we respectfully decline representation. So nobody wanted to hear the truth. I wrote Oprah Winfrey, I wrote the president, As I told you, I think somewhere here I have the letter I wrote to William Rehnquist when he was the head of the Supreme Court. I tried to write so many people and tell them what happened, and nobody wants to hear the truth. If I had said he raped me, I would have gotten more attention. But that's not what happened. He just stole from me. He got me on the phone at Jack Hembergers' house, told me he was going to make me rich and famous, and I don't. That's not even what this is about now. I just want the truth told, because Jedi Knights in the Force wasn't his. He took it from me, offered me something, didn't pay for it, didn't give it back. So really, it's not his because he never paid for it. You see what I'm saying? So he never kept his end of the deal. It's George Lucas stole Jedi Knights in the Force in essence by fraud, because that's breaking an oral contract. Even though I'm not sure how the law pertains to making an oral contract with a 7-year-old kid who you had no right to even be soliciting for information to begin with. All of that being said, this is all circumstantial evidence. I've shown you the picture that I drew when I was a kid, and I wrote Jedi Knights in the Force on it when we lived in West Palm Beach, Florida. And I tried to tell, I think I even wrote Barack Obama and told him about it. He didn't do anything either. Nobody's going to do nothing to him because he can do whatever he wants. He's like another Cuomo, you know, just do whatever you want and you can just keep getting away with it forever. And, you know, it's not. I'm not going to stop telling the truth. And like I said in the last video, you can kill me, and I still won't stop telling the truth. And my videos will stay up, and they'll keep being, people will keep hearing them. You'll keep seeing them. As long as you come on my channel, you will. And I'll never stop telling the truth, no matter who tries to tell me to stop telling the truth. I'm not going to stop telling the truth, okay? Again, George Lucas stole Jedi Knights in the Force from a 7-year-old kid in 1974. That kid is me. And he looks like he just got away with it. Nobody's doing anything about it. And I keep trying to tell people, it's like a tree root, you know? If it's rotten in the core, isn't it rotten through the whole tree? Doesn't it rot the whole tree eventually and destroy the whole tree? You know, that's how I perceive it. I don't think God sees it any different than that either. Pardon me, I completely jumped the shark. I forgot a whole part of this video. Okay, now as I told you all before, even after the lawyers, before I started making videos and putting them on YouTube, after the lawyers all were turning me down, I didn't really give up yet. I went to the Louisville Public Library. I mailed them checks, and they actually took copies of what they call the Suburban Directory. And I don't know if you know, back then, that was like our phone book, okay? Now, remember me telling you, I don't know if you remember one of my other videos, they had the addresses messed up on MapQuest. MapQuest, I had to write them letters and say, your addresses are all wrong. Our address was 5513 Riata Blvd, and it was the third house down. His was 5707, and as you can see, it said 5705. So their maps were a little off, but later on, they corrected it. But you can go on any map site now and look at about the third house down on. If you look down about the third house down on this side where my finger's at on Riata, on any map app, you'll see it's at 5513. So that was ours, and I was originally asking because I was going off of MapQuest. See, 5593. It's 5513, not 5593. Okay, and Lord Lucas, 5707. You see, I was asking for 5703, 5705. I wanted all of them because I was looking for Lucas. See, and this is the first time I sent off. And when I came back with no Lucas, I was like, something's not right here. And of course, even Jack Hemberger was not there at that point because that was from 73 to 74. Okay, I sent off again. I had to pay him again. Each time you get them, you have to pay again. So this time I got 74 to 77. And if you look, and I'll go back here, let me pull this out. If you go, now look at 5707 Robinwood Road, there was a guy named Tongate. Now when you look, oh, that's the wrong one here, sorry. 74 to 75. There he is, Jack Hemberger. And as I said, it could be something Freeman in the other videos. I'm not so sure of that. I'm pretty sure his name was Jack Hemberger. And that in itself is sort of almost like, still like a needle in a haystack. I mean, when you look at all these names, how can I peg this house for having had George Lucas call there? And I'm still estimating around April of 1974, and it was somewhere in the early afternoon. So if I arrived at the hospital at 2:45 and had my palate reattached where he pointed a piece of rebar at my face, and you back up and you get phone records for 2 o'clock in the afternoon at this house, and you find George Lucas's call, you'll have no way that you can ever deny what I'm telling you right now, because there's no way I could know that. There could be any house on here, could be a relative of his, and then none of them could be. You see what I'm saying? How would I even know that anybody on here was related to George Lucas, much less to narrow it down to this house? And again, I could be wrong, and it could be this house. But either way, I wouldn't know that unless I was there. I wouldn't know that he called one of those houses unless I was there. And again, I'm pretty sure when he told me his name, I thought it was kind of odd. So I'm thinking Hemberger, because Freeman doesn't sound that odd to me. So I remember thinking his name was odd. So I'm sticking with Jack Hemberger. That's what I've been saying in all the videos. Again, here was my friends Tara and Kelly Payne, who were in the front yard the day Jack Hemberger heard me say Jedi Knights in the Force. And at that point, he kept coming to my house trying to get me on the phone with his cousin, George Lucas. There's my friend Lisa Bell. Her dad's name was Benjamin Bell. And there's my dad, Conrad Vincent, and my brother's name is Conrad Vincent, and we call him Vince. So when you hear me mention my brother was there in the front yard, Vince, that's who I'm talking about. Now my younger brother, David, was there as well that day. And as I said, I had forgotten to add this part of the video. I would not have collected all this stuff up for nothing. If I had nothing to prove, I would not have wasted my time. Look, I'm going to go get some Suburban Directory, and hopefully I'll find somebody. And you know, even if you look at those pieces of paper right now, what is there to say that this guy, Jack Hemberger, is even related to George Lucas? But see, you can see again, when I was first looking, I was looking for someone named Lucas because of what I know he took from me. You know what I'm saying? I knew he got Jedi Knights in the Force, so I was looking for someone named Lucas at that address. You see? But it's not. It was either Freeman or Hemberger, and I'm almost 99.999% sure it was Jack Hemberger. So, either way, I couldn't know that George Lucas called his house on a certain day in April. And if I can get my immunization records and show that I had a tetanus shot sometime in April, I'll know that's when I had my palate ripped out, because the doctor looked at my parents funny. And I do remember being in the hospital and them they were saying stuff to me. I can't remember everything they said, but I think I remember my mom and them trying to tell the doctor, and the doctor looked at me and said, okay, we got you, you know. And he was looking at them funny. So I don't think he believed them, because I think he knew that wasn't a stick that did that. I think he knew it wasn't a Tinker toy that tore the roof of my mouth. There was rust in my mouth. I mean, there had to have been some in the so he probably thought my mom was lying, you know, or my dad, you know, or both. I don't know who was telling him everything, but I'd almost think that they thought he was lying. But I wish I tried to find the doctor. I tried to find records from the hospital. Hospitals quit carrying records so long ago. I tried to get to the microfiche. You wouldn't believe the levels I've had trouble trying to get my hospital records, and guess what? All my hospital records I had were in that red sleeve, with my immunization record, my birth certificate, and that piece of evidence I had against George Lucas. So, yeah, when they snatched that envelope, they got everything that would have proved where I was that day. They got the evidence Then, of course, the piece of paper was created a couple months later, or maybe even a month later. I'm not really even sure when the exact date that I put that on the paper, but it was in the summer of '74, because around the spring, we were still in our last days of school in Louisville when we left and went to Florida. And so there's no way that it was 75, because in 75 I went in a foster home. Our lives were kind of a nightmare. So, we were very poor. A lot of things happened. I'm not getting into that, but it is what it is. George Lucas knows what he did, and I'm just trying to wake the public up, and we should all be shaming him, because what he did, it was worse than stealing candy from a baby, because I was 7 years old when he robbed me. If you don't think that's wrong, there's something wrong with you. One more quick note. I've never seen any documentation at all that would tie a Freeman or a Hemberger to George Lucas's name. So I have no way of connecting them past that address and being there that day and getting that phone call. So believe what you want. I think one of the arguments that some people may have with me about this is they say, well, what did he really take from you? Physically, nothing. Physically, nothing. But you can say, in a way, and this can be argued, that could be intellectual property, because it was mine. It was my creation, my idea, my dream, my stuff, And then even then for him to turn around and say, if he had not said to me, I will make you rich and famous, you give me that. Yes. And then ask me who knew about it. There's two problems with that. One, that's kind of disgusting, because you knew that if nobody knew, I wouldn't have anybody to back my story up, right? Except my younger brother, David, remembers. Because when he said, what's a Jedi Knight in the front yard? When we were in Florida, and I said, I'm going to go in the house and put it on paper. Well, see, he had forgotten too. But when I told him that, he remembered. See, he remembered saying, nobody's going to steal that stupid thing. But see, you told me you were going to make me rich and famous. So that is an oral contract. That's what he stole, because he didn't keep his word, first off. And then it's like the whole idea that he would take from a kid and never have the obligation or think that he would ever have to come forward. That's what he took. He took what he wanted to take and thought he would never have to be responsible for it. More note, for all you patriots who watch this video, or even if you're not, how many years have you been saying the government was corrupt? You think the FBI is not corrupt? Bob Friedricks worked for the FBI before he started working for George Lucas. My evidence vanished. Nobody knew where it was. There's no possible way anybody could have known. My two brothers, who I talked to on the phone, knew. They're not rich. They didn't make any money. Nobody I know has made any money. So there's no possible way anybody could have found the evidence unless they were tapping my phones illegally. Like what they call the illegal dissemination of classified information. You know how that works? That means if the FBI started listening to you on your phone, they're not allowed to share that information with anyone. Anything they hear from you on that phone is not allowed to be shared with anyone unless they have classified security clearance. So therefore, if in fact Bob Friedricks of the FBI was listening to my phones and found the location of the evidence I had against George Lucas, and then they stole it, and he had told George Lucas he illegally disseminated classified information, which is a crime. It's a big crime, okay? And I can't think of any other possible way they could have found my evidence. There's no way. It was out in the storage, way out in the country. How could they have found it? No way. No way they could have found it unless somebody was listening. to me talk to my brothers because I tried to get them to go get it out of storage. So both my brothers know. They know. My older brother does remember too. He just can't really. He remembers me saying something. He just doesn't remember as clear as my younger brother, because my younger brother, first in the yard on Riata, when Jack Hembergers first heard me say Jedi Knights, my younger brother heard it too. And actually, so did all the other kids standing there. Lisa Bell, Tara and Kelly Payne. Now, they may not remember, but they were there. They heard it too. And then he said it again in Florida. When I went to put it on the paper, he said, nobody's going to steal that stupid story. And sure enough, George Lucas did, didn't he? And I put it on paper just to avoid the situation. And somehow, he not only stole that, but he stole all my medical records, my birth certificate, and all that was in that sleeve. Talk about killing two birds with one stone, huh, George? Hey, Bob Friedricks. I wonder if you could have somebody go check your bank accounts between, let's say, when did you come to see me in Bedford? 2001? Between 2001 and 2010, 11, somewhere in there, you stole my document sleeve with all my stuff in it. I think somebody should check your bank account. See if you had any big deposits. Anyway, for you people out there, you still think this man's good? Go worship him. Because you don't worship God if you worship that man. If you think Star Wars is good, I'm sorry. I loved him when I was a kid too, and I keep telling you that. I've said it in all the other videos. But to what ends? The man was corrupt. I mean, how do we love something that came from someone corrupt? I don't know. I don't know how that. I don't even know how I'm supposed to think about it, because I liked him so much, and then when I realized the truth, but the fact that he's corrupt and he stole Jedi Knights and the Force from a kid, I don't like that, and nobody should.